What's going on, guys? It's Rich here, and we are back after another regional. Today we attended the Leeds regional in Leeds. It was a Geek retreat. Shout out to the store. The regional event itself ran absolutely fantastically. One of the best regional events I've been to in terms of actually running. And more importantly, is the best result I've ever had at a regional. Now, I didn't top, unfortunately, still chasing that elusive top. But it literally came down to the last round or two whether I would or wouldn't top, and I eventually lost in round 6 to Jeswin, the guy who took me to the event. He then ended up taking 3rd place at the event, so well done to Jeswin. He was playing Brave Prankid. We'll talk a little bit about the event, and then we'll talk about the deck, do a deck profile, call it a day, and then go to bed because I'm very tired now. We played 7 rounds of Swiss. I played 2 Virtual World, 2 Brave Prankids, a Flunderese, an Eldlich, and a... Virtual World, Prankid, Flunderese, Eldlich, and a Bird Up. Round 1, Bird Up. I 2-0'd every single person except the Virtual World player and the Brave Prankids player, and I 2-1 Flunder. Everything else was a swift 2-0. The event went really well. As for what topped, obviously Jeswin himself topped with Brave Prankids. I think there was another Brave Prankids in the top 8. There was an Eldlich player in the top 8. There was a PK player, I want to say, in the top 8 as well. And I think someone was playing Based in the top 8. So, really diverse. We played a lot of things. When I got to the event, a lot of people were... Well, I walked in and the first thing I seen was 4 guys sat there with Royal Decrees. So I had little optimism. I wasn't looking forward to playing this deck. Nothing against the deck, but I am very, 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 very new to the deck and didn't know all the interactions with things. The deck isn't rocket science, and I'm not trying to make it out like the deck is rocket science and it requires a lot of skill to play, but the deck does require knowledge of other decks in order to stop them at their choke points so that you don't lose any advantage. And I'll talk a little bit about how I did that today and some of the cards I used to do it, and my card back choice, why I chose it, would I change anything, etc, etc. So, without further ado, let's actually get into the deck profile itself. It is Trap Eldlich, so it's going to mostly be trap cards anyway. But other than that, let's sort of have a quick chat right now. Starting off with the monsters, yes, we do actually play some. We opted for double copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord, triple copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and we are actually playing 1 Dogmatic Ecclesia. 6 monsters, nice and round. Let's talk about it. We're also going to talk a lot about siding because I feel like siding with this deck is really important. Ecclesia is absolutely fantastic. It gets you a trap whilst also getting you a body on the board. If you have the spot, play it. If not, you don't have to. Eldlich is obviously your main guy in the deck and the guy you're going to summon most times. Lord of Heavenly Prison protects you from Lightning Storms, Twin Twisters and stuff, MSTs, Galaxy Cyclone if people are playing that. It protects you from those, whilst also providing you a huge 3k body, a level 10 to make rank 10 access, and literally getting you any spell or trap in the game. If you can get to the end phase with Lord still revealed, activate anything like Conk or something, just for the sake of activating it, get this on the board, summon, set yourself an extra. You've gone like +3 off of that interaction alone. That's kind of what this is here to do. We set things like Pot of Extravagance a lot off this. We also sometimes set our traps if they are required in order to either progress the game state or essentially win. And Ecclesia is here literally just to search punishment. It is a additional body, and we summoned this a lot today. We'll get into that a little bit later. That rounds up the 6 monsters. Spells, we only played 1. We played 3 of them, which is the card we've just talked about. Pot of Extravagance. You opt for Extrav over Prosperity in this deck. The 6 you banish don't matter, but you just simply, you go +1 as opposed to digging for a specific card. In this, you're not bothered as long as it's purple. As long as it's purple, you're fine. If the card isn't good, then it's because you're probably going to side it out game 2, like for specific matchups and stuff. But most of the time, you're going to end up hitting your engine pieces, or you're going to end up hitting super blowout cards, which we'll get into later. There's just the standard floodgates and stuff. that you play in almost every build. Definitely wouldn't play Prosperity at all in this deck. Whoops, sorry. You can play Duality. I tested Duality. Wouldn't opt for any more than 2. Probably would just play 1. But I completely cut it and just played Extra. Didn't miss the Duality at all today. If you have room, you can play it. You know, the deck's kind of flexible in those spots, so it's kind of good that we have this matchup. Moving on to the Eldlich engine itself. 3 copies of Eldlich, 3 copies of Conk, 2 copies of Haquero. Only opting for 2 Haqueros. I have seen some lists with 3. We didn't opt for anything else. Was Golden Land Forever, Cursed Old Land. I know that's a spell, but, you know, this is it. This is the whole engine, the peanut butter jelly of the deck. Conk's going to summon and banish, summon and pop. Haquero's going to summon and banish. Eldlich is going to get you your Eldlich whenever you need it. And they're all going to recycle each other as and when needed. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else to talk about. That's literally it. Haquero is your best friend. Remember, you can activate this in response to things targeting to banish the target. It may miss targeting if that's the case. You can also do this on things like DPE. Yes, we like DPE. DPE is a huge problem for this deck. Just because it is a problem for this deck doesn't mean you cannot deal with it. The card is super easy to deal with, but if you do not have the things right there, right then to deal with DPE when it comes down, it can prove a problem, and DPE needs to be your biggest priority. The advantage it gets of just popping your 1 trap every turn, it minimizes your grind game from like 8-9 turns down to 2 or 3, and 2 or 3 turns in a format like this is not good at all, especially for this deck. You can play super aggressive. You want to open a couple of these. At first, I only wanted to open like 1 engine piece because it gets you rolling. But every game I won today was because I opened like 2 engine pieces and a couple of other traps. So opening multiple engine pieces at once isn't necessarily a problem. However, you do not want to open like just triple Eldlich or, you know, triple Conk. So definitely play these ratios in my opinion. I'm probably not going to change anything at all in this deck list. Maybe 1 or 2 things. We'll talk about it as we go along. Moving on to the counter traps, I suppose. Triple copies of Solemn Strike. Probably the best card in this goddamn game. I absolutely love this thing. 1500 to negate the normal, to negate the special summon or effect of anything. Comes up so much. And we also were maining 2 copies of Judgment. Other room to be removed. I wanted to side these, but I just couldn't find room in the side deck. So I just literally opted to main them. Only 2. We opted for 3-2. It was a fairly decent ratio. Judgment, I never sided it out, but I just never really needed it. It never was like, I really wish I had a Judgment right now. There was one game I got rebooted, where I really wish I had the Judgment, but I didn't. So it's tough shit. Just to put it nicely, it was just simple as it was tough. Like, I got rebooted. He then made Shen and Duster, so don't think it really would have mattered. Like, I Judgment the reboot, he just Dusters me anyway, so there was nothing I could have done to play around Duster and reboot. But yeah, we opted for 2 Dusters. Strikes, we're going to talk a little bit now about the matchups and why Strike and Dogmatic Punishment, which we're going to talk about as well, was so important. A lot of decks in this format need that first summon, and they need that first summon to stay on the board. Especially today when I played Virtual World. Yes, I lost to them, but they need that first thing on the board in order to activate any of the other Virtual World cards to, you know, target, send, summon. Same with Flunderees. Striking that summon, punishing that summon. Heck, I even torrentialed a normal summon today. He summoned like Rabinia, I think it was. I just torrentialed. No. It's a 1-for-1, which is not what you really want to do in this deck, but it won me the game. There's a lot of decks that just need that normal summon. So, yeah, it was really good to have the strikes in the deck, and of course punishment, which we'll talk about later. Judgment was just there to stop. It stopped a Brave at one point. I won a game in the later rounds because all he had left was the Brave engine, and I just kept Judgment in his Fateful. But that was literally it. We'll move on to some Floodgates now. I think in this deck, 6 is the magic number of Floodgates to run. 3 Skill Drain is probably mandatory. This is in pretty much every Eldlich list. The second Floodgate that you can play kind of just depends of you as a player. So I talked a lot today about what my second Floodgate was to all the other Eldlich players, and all of them looked at me like I had 5 heads. They said I should be playing TC Boo. They said I should have been playing Gozen. One guy said, have I tried the rivalry build with Zombie World and stuff, which is like, yeah, but that's not what I'm going for here. But my choice of Floodgate was Summon Limit. A lot of people just said, no, just don't. But this thing put in work. Both of these Floodgates stopped opponents exactly when I needed them to, and then just generated me so much advantage. Then they can go like normal, special. You flip Summon Limit, they go end phase, you go punishment, pop both of them, and then just proceed to put up silly amounts of damage with the Eldlich cards. Would I change it? Maybe. Although Summon Limit was great, I am tempted to cut one and then cut something else and then maybe go to playing 7 Floodgates with 2 TC Boos. The only reason I don't like to... So I'll tell you the pros and cons of why I don't and do like TC Boo. TC Boo hurts this deck. But it hurts this deck in a way where you can get set up and then play around it. So TC Boo obviously stops you from summoning anything after your first summon. So you summon Haquero or whatever, or even the Eldlich, you can't activate Conk, you can't activate Eldlixir, and if you do, they just sort of sit in the spell and trap zone and do nothing. So you sort of got yourself set up to where you can revive an Eldlich from the grave to pop your own TC Boo just to summon, to then proceed to go and just beat the shit out of them, basically. I didn't like that. I didn't like that I couldn't get all of the benefits off my card because of a TC Boo. Gozen match, same reason. I can't summon the Lord of Heavenly Prison. I can still use its effect to protect, which is kind of its most important effect, but I could never use its effect to summon and get any spell or trap in this game. Like, that is broken alone. The thing gets you any spell or trap. And you can't do that under Gozen whilst you obviously have an Eldlich guy on the board. And Rivalry, similar reason. You know, I couldn't summon Ecclesia. I couldn't summon Lord of Heavenly Prison under the zombie lock. So, with that in mind, Summon Limit, it doesn't stop you at all at any point doing anything. It just slows you down at worst. And at best, it's going to completely shut them down, which is exactly what it did. It won me just about every game I flipped it up. I don't think there's a single game I opened Summon Limit and didn't win. I could be wrong, like maybe going second, but I tended to side this out very often. We're going to talk about siding out things later. And Skill Drain is just Skill Drain. Pay 1,000 and no one's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. So let's talk normal cards. Normal cards. The normal traps. These are the bread and butter of your deck. 3 Ice Dragon's Prison, 3 Torrential Tribute, 3 Dogmatic of Punishment, and again, contrary, we opted to max out on the trap tricks. People say you should only play 2 of this because drawing multiple kind of clog your hand, but it doesn't. This thing is any trap you want. Not only is it literally any of these, so you're talking a revive or banish of a problematic card, a complete board wipe, or a +1 if you send like Entus. It's also any of your engine, so it just means that you can play less of things. If you're not a fan of 3 trap tricks, you can easily cut the trap trick, you can easily cut Summon Limit. That might be what I cut, but I didn't brick on this once. There was one game I did see 2 of them, but it wasn't an issue because I had the other traps to back it up all the time. We'll talk about side deck, we'll talk about why I chose this side deck in particular. Coughing everything up, and what I sided in and out, because siding for me was always a huge problem, but I felt siding today, I felt so comfortable siding everything. A lot of 2-ofs in the side deck because of, again, the trap tricks. So our spell and trap removal, we opted for Double Duster. It's trap trickable, which means you can get away with only playing 2. If I ever did come up against Royal Decree, it was probably going to be GG there and then. It's draw Eldlich or nothing at that point. Double D barrier, this is to stop things like Sword Soul making synchros, and I did it against the Bird Up player and called XZs, and he couldn't do any extending from there. invoked when they get right to either summon Infusion Destiny or Invocation. You can call Fusion. It's pretty standard. And then the MVP of the day, 2 Witcher Strikes. And yes, I did resolve it. And yes, it won me the game. Super simple. If your opponent negates the normal or special summon of a card or the activation of a card or effect, it destroys all cards your opponent controls and all cards in their hand. Now, it's very situational. However, we're in a format right now where negating activations is everywhere. Mechaba, the Brave cards, there's Solemns running around in the Eldlich matchups. Ghost Bell is one of the most popular hand traps right now, which is what I triggered Witcher Strike off most today. There was an interaction where I activated Eldlich. The guy was up massively on card advantage. He had like 5 or 6 in hand, 3 set, 1 monster on the board. I think I just evenly matched him, which is going to get the next card we talk about in a minute. And he's just been recuperating resources for the last 4 or 5 turns. I finally got to some engine. I activated the Eldlich. He chains Bell as Chainlink 2, Trap Trick as Chainlink 3, Banish Witch's Strike to set Witch's Strike. The effects all resolve. The Eldlich gets activation of Eldlich gets negated off of the Bell. New chain, Witch's Strike, blows up his entire hand and field, and the resources he was trying to recuperate just gone. That was against a Prankid player that he was trying to get double Kid in order to go full combo, and the strike just eventually shut him down. We've mentioned it, so we may as well bring it up. Triple copies of Evenly Matched. In my opinion, this is the best card in the format right now. You should be playing this over Cosmics. Well, you can probably play Cosmics too. You should be playing this over Twins and stuff like that. It's one of the best blowing second cards in the goddamn game. Yes, there is a lot of things that negate the activation of this, like the Brave card, like Mechaba. Mechaba not so much because they need to have trap, and Invokes don't tend to play that many traps. They'll probably play like 1 Schism and maybe like TC Boos. Some lists are playing TC Boos. I play TC Boo in mine. So, yeah, like, other than that, there's not much to really deal with in the Invoke matchup. But yeah, the card is just so good. It's just an absolute blowout. Speaking of also blowouts, we don't normal summon, so there's no reason not to play Lava Golems in the side deck as well. You can also play Sphere Modes. I've seen lists play Sphere Modes, I've seen lists play Lava Golems, I've seen lists play 2 and 2, I've seen lists play 3 and 3. You don't normal summon in it. If you want to just go ahead and break a board, this is the best way to do it. It's as simple as that. Sphere Mode in a board is pretty good. So, obviously Lava Golem only requires 2, Sphere Mode requires 3, but the other pro to Sphere Mode is obviously it comes back during the next turn, and it's level 10, so it opens up some really niche level 10 plays that you can make in this deck. And the last card we sided, also MVP of today, triple copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. The card won me so many games as well today, solely because of the amount of spell that is running around. I didn't play any, but there was a couple of Striker players. This is just a free win against those. There was a couple of Mystic Mine players as well today. Another win for this deck. Just anti-spell. But more importantly, it stops the Brave engine from resolving. It stops Fusion Destiny being a problem. It stops Invoked when they go to activate Invocation. You flip the anti-spell before. They have to set it for a turn, and they're just going to end on either Secure Gardener, Almirage, or Alistair, depending on where you've choked them at. Like, the card is absolute nuts, and really, really good this format. So let's talk about what we sided in and out. Let's sort of put this side deck scattered up here, slightly off the camera. Let's just sort of push this forward a little bit. So obviously, going second, you're going to side in Evenly's Lava Golems, sometimes the Witch's Strike. Going first, depending on the matchup, you're probably going Anti-Spell, D-Barrier, and Duster, which means, and probably Strike as well. The deck was super diverse in the sense of we had 7 cards to go first, 6 cards dedicated to going second, and 2 that could be either way. So, in my opinion, this is the best side deck. Whoa. Oh, that was tragic. We just punched that off the side. The best side deck we could have made. But what do you side out? Because, it's really hard to talk about what to side out without talking about the matchups. So we'll talk about the cards I sided most out today. I sided out skill drains quite a lot. I know it's quite controversial. It does little in the virtual mode matchup. It was doing little in the mirror matchup, which is 3 of the 7 rounds we played today. So skill drain was something I sided out quite a bit. Another thing that you side out is Pot of Extravagance. You don't need it. It's just a +1. Sometimes it's better to have the board breakers than the +1s. Ecclesia, something I sided out a couple of times today. You can get away with siding out Lord of the Heavenly Prisons, any number of them. Sometimes I sided out 1, sometimes I sided out 2. I always tended to keep 1 in the deck. That's about it. Like, you have, what we got here? We got 3, 6, 9. That's 10 cards to side out. You're never really going to side in more than 10 at once. Summon Limit as well was something I sided in and out today. Didn't tend to keep this in going second. And that's another prop to TC Boo. I know we said we were going to mention the props to it, and we never really did. TC Boo can kind of break boards going second. Like, you can set it. If it doesn't get popped, you can flip it on their turn, and they're forced to respond or lose a couple of cards. So, yeah, that was the deck. We're going to briefly go over the extra deck. It didn't really come up, but we'll briefly go over it. I think I made 2 things from this extra deck today. I've made more in previous matchups and previous testings, so it's not that you don't ever use it. It just didn't come up much today. So we'll start off with the best cards that we have. Lina the Light Charmer, Win the Wind Charmer. We played both of them. It's quite popular that both of these get played. I was tempted to also play the Dahak, and I still may play Dak. Because stealing DPs and stuff is really good. Win is here to steal things like Barons. I stole someone's Rise of the Mega Monarch in the Flunderies matchup, or at least I was going to. I don't remember, did I? I think I had game on board and didn't, but I could have. I think that was one of the ways. I was looking at different ways to win at the time, and I think that's one of the ways I looked to. Obviously, you can't make Win without Imduk. Imduk is here just to make Win, but it only requires a normal monster that's not a token. So you can use any of the Eldlich traps to do it. Double Link Spider as well. Kind of went really hard on making sure that I could summon the Eldlich traps and then get them in the grave. So normally you'd only run like either 2 Link Spider and no Imduk, or you probably get away with maybe 1 or 1. But I just opted to go all out. The last thing we played was the Blackluster Soldier Link. We summoned this once today, I want to say. It's just really good when you have the Eldlich. You can get him in grave and obviously revive him back with his own effect anyway. And then you get a big 3k untargetable. I'm just sort of moving to the side of the camera. 3k untargetable thing that can then gain, let's see, 1500. Make a second attack of the battle phase. Or banish a card, non-targeting banishing, super handy. Outs Dragoon, outs DPEs, if they've used their effect already. Or even if they've not used their effect, like it doesn't target. So if they say the effect is fine, you just get rid of the DPE there and then. Done, gone, get rid of it. Don't want to deal with that anymore. And obviously, you only need 3 monsters to make it with different names. Would I play anything else in this extra deck? Phoenix, Unicorn, probably would put them in. I'm tempted to potentially play Super Poly because there's a lot of boards today that I looked and was like, got Super Poly this whole board away. So yeah, just another thing to bear in mind. But yeah, the deck is really good, and the card is very good. I wouldn't change any of those. They were all the links we played. We played a couple of XCs, not too many to really warrant much talking about. We were only on 1 Constellar Plamades. We were also only on 1 of the Gustav engine. So that's 1 Max and 1 Libre. And then, of course, because we're playing a couple of XEs, we also opted for the 1 Zeus. I made Plamades once today, and I could have made Gustav Max for game, but he scooped before I could even bother anyway. So, yeah, that's it. Zeus, I never even bothered getting into. You can probably cut Zeus, but honestly, it's just nice to have a complete board wipe, especially when you're kind of low on card advantage, and maybe literally all you have is like Eldlich and like a golden... Eldlich and like a Lord. Just being able to either burn for 2k, attempt to OTK with Libre, or just have a 4-mat Zeus. It's good to just have these options. But what you do find is you banish 1 or 2 of the engine pieces for that off the extrav, and it limits you down. So, like, if you banish the Gustav Max, the Libre is completely dead. If you banish the Imduk, the Wind's completely dead. But you don't rely on the extra deck anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then the last cards we all played are our fellow purple cards. Oh no, we played 1 Synchro. Omega, just an just a punishment target. Just shuffle someone back. Talking about Omega, we'll also talk about the next card, Titaniclad. These are like your 1-for-1 cards that you send. So earlier you heard me mention about playing around Virtual World and playing around Flunderies. These are your best 2 targets to send. There's no point sending... We'll just reveal the last card. It's pretty obvious. There's no point sending Elder Entity, just going like 1-for-1. You're just negging off an Unts there. So like they go normal summon and you go punishment to stop it. They're not going to do any follow-ups. So sending Entus here, you're just losing out on Entus's effect. So I wanted opposite targets to send. These were ones. I was tempted to also play something like Ferrijit or Wing Pegasus at Ignista. But I opted for this. Omega just being able to shuffle anything back is really good. And Titaniclad won me 1,000,001 games. Titaniclad, by the way, I know we're like a year and a half into this, but people keep forgetting because it came up twice today. This thing doesn't just add to hand. This special summons as well. Happened twice today where I sent Titaniclad off punishment, and then end phase, Titaniclad effect, summon Ecclesia, add another punishment, and the guy was like, you can't summon. I was like, yeah, you can. It's kind of what it says on the card. But yeah, that's it. That's the whole deck. Omega's there just to recycle. Unts is there for when you want to go 2-for-1. You know, buy 1, get 1 free on your pops off punishment. And yeah, Titaniclad, like I said, gets you the search. Other little niche interactions that don't come up as much with Ecclesia is Lina here searches the Ecclesia when destroyed because it has to be 1850 or lower, and I think she is exactly 1800 or 1850. Where is she? Where's the Ecclesia gone? I'd like to say she's exactly 1800. No, she's 15. Why did I think she was 18? She's 1500. Did I just mess this bit up? Yes, sorry, I messed this up. It's because this is 1850. This searches a light with 1500 or less defense, and this is exactly 1500. There we go. We got there in the end. I knew it was an exact, but I couldn't figure out what. Yeah, it searches anything when it's exactly 1500. So if you end up making this off of, you know, any of your 2 Eldlich traps or whatever, and the thing gets popped, because it's likely to get run over, it's 1850 with no protection. You're probably just summoning this just to get your Eldlich trapped in the grave, to continue playing Eldlich. Just know it's also going to get you a search for a 1500 body that's likely to get you another trap as well. So, just another reason, in my opinion, to play the Ecclesia. But that's it. I've had a horrible 28 minutes of waffling on here, of coughing my guts up, of nattering on tired and punching the camera, apparently. And that is it. I've had enough. I'm going to bed. I've played too much Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. I've thought and read too many cards. But what a fantastic day it was. Congratulations again to Jeswin for topping. Thank you so much to Callum Cook, who was kind of my inspiration behind playing this deck. He topped a YCS with this deck. He's topped several regionals with this deck. And he sat down and gave me every minute of his time talking about cards, why I shouldn't play with it, ratios and stuff like that. And then I've kind of gone off on my own accord and thought about the format and come up with this side deck. And even then, like, he's asked me why, I've told him why, and he's been so good at coaching me. Ben Sherman's always there supporting me. All the other guys at locals. Brad is always there to shout at me when I judge call him for stupid things. Terry's always there. Everyone at Fanboy. I'm absolutely loving this game right now. This is the most regional events I've ever done. I only have ever done like 3 or 4 events prior to this. And I've done like 3 or 4 already this year, and we're only in February. And I don't plan on stopping. I've booked so much time off work for these events right now. And it's good to finally have time off work and do the hobby I enjoy. So thank you to everyone that's helped me. Thank you to all of you guys for listening me waffle on for half an hour. It's been your boy Screech, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have, comment and subscribe. Peace.